Blessings, blessings, and welcome to Imago Spiritual Learning and Wellness. Um, I'm sharing today. I just got back from it's afternoon here, and got back from a networking event at the local Chamber of Commerce. Just kind of making connections, building relationships, and so I don't have tea, but I'm going to keep my mug here. My be still and know. Um, this is going to be a mainstay in my videos. So I'm going to have this prominently featured on everyone. But on the way back, I was thinking about the. It was a really productive meeting, really, really, really good for what I'm doing now. For myself, um, and and anyway, this memory came to mind when I was driving back, and it was a memory of this happened about 17 years ago, I think 17, 18 years ago. I was living in Boston in Jamaica Plain, and it was winter, um, and I was walking through Jamaica Pond. It's just a beautiful little uh, it was my sanctuary for me. I enjoyed going there and taking photos. I had a DSLR at the time, and I would take photos and just sit, and enjoy the silence. And there would be people here and there all around, especially in spring and summer, warmer months. But this was something that happened in winter. And winter, if you don't know, in Boston, of course everyone knows, Massachusetts gets cold, snowy, icy, and so this was no exception this day. And I'm walking through the park, um, and I have my camera, you know, strapped on me and kind of hanging around my neck, and I came to a part of the pond that was frozen over in ice. And there, on the ice, on the frozen pond, was a flock of geese? Is it a flock or a gaggle? I forget the word, but anyway, it was a bunch of geese. And I'm guessing if I remember correctly, and I took photos. Uh, 30, 40, 50, probably closer to 50. Yeah, 60 probably. I mean, there was a bunch. And man, they were just going at it. They were just yap 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 yap. The quacking and the they were just communicating. And it was just kind of this crowd and this cacophony of sound. Rising up from this flock of geese. I'm going to say the word flock. So, um, and I stood, just kind of observing, and I took some photos and stuff. But I really enjoyed just the moment and watching them. There was this kind of excited energy among the geese. They were all just quack 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 quack, with one another, big crowd. And as I stood there watching, just observing in silence, and the pond, the park was pretty much empty. It was just me, because it was a cold winter day. Again, it was snow everywhere. Pond was frozen over. And I stood there observing in silence, just enjoying what was there in the moment. And then after some minutes, I don't know how long, 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I really don't remember how long. Um, Suddenly, a goose or a gander, I don't know, but a goose suddenly started walking off by itself into the open space of the frozen pond. So the flock they were all clustered together, in this excited energy that they were expressing, and this goose, just after some time, starts walking off alone a little bit, and he gets away from the crowd, maybe a distance of, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 feet or so. And he's just by himself. And all the geese go quiet. So I was just like, wow, there's something happening here, right? So my attention was really fixed on this one solitary goose that had gone, walked away a distance from the rest of the flock. And the flock, again, just fell into just total silence. So I'm watching. And I remember there was this kind of a cold wind. It wasn't very hard. It wasn't, just, but it was cold. And I remember the stillness and the silence that fell over the flock, and the whole scene, and all around me, because the park was empty. It was just me. And this silence, this profound silence, came over everything. And I'm watching. And then the solitary goose walks a bit more distance, a few more feet. It's kind of waddling over. And all the geese have their attention fixed on this one goose. And then the solitary goose kind of starts taking off with his feet, like a plane taxiing down the runway for takeoff. And then off in the air, and all the whole flock just right behind them, and they all just start taking off in clusters here and there, But they all just followed right behind the leader, or the one exercising leadership, the one who took the lead to flight. And I was just in awe of the scene. This transition from this excited group of geese. And I imagined that as I was driving today, I imagined when I had the memory, I imagined that the geese were probably all excited, talking about the upcoming trip, their migration to somewhere down south to warmer climes. And I thought about them, talking about, are you ready? I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. And and they're just talking in their goose language, and so I imagined that they were talking about the upcoming trip excitedly. And then when the moment came of the solitary goose separating itself and then, eventually taking off, it was just really something. And I thought about this scene and this event, this small little event that I witnessed. And I thought about how that might apply to us as human beings, right? We're all caught up in the flow of life. And within that current, we have family, we have friends, we have co-workers, associates, acquaintances, all kinds of folks. And if you're like me, I will get chatty if I'm standing on line at Walmart, at the store. I'll just chat it up with folks, and because I love our humanity, and I love the potential that is inherent in our humanity, because love and the oneness is there, just like fear and duality, and hatred and enmity. It's all there. It's all there. They're like different notes on a guitar, and different strings on a guitar, and we can pluck certain strings and do it in such a way that we can create different notes, and that's what it is. So I enjoy melody, I enjoy rhythm, I enjoy flow, I enjoy oneness, And wherever I go, I seek to foster that. And because we have to be community. Not together, but like I am community. Wherever I go, not that I seek to create community, but it just happens. It just happens. And anyway, but that's not my aim. My aim is to foster, cultivate, encourage the oneness, to envision the oneness, embrace the oneness, embody the oneness, express the oneness, and expand the oneness. The unity, the love, the truth, the spirit of it. Honesty, humility, wisdom, all of it. I mean, I'm capable of the lowest, worst traits that you can imagine of humanity. We all are. But anyway, so I like to chat it up. And so I imagine that that's what these geese were doing. They were just chatting, and busying themselves with, are you ready? Are you ready? And whatever they were sharing with each other in their conversations. And when that solitary goose separated himself, because that one was following the rhythm of life. That one was following his inner calling. And through a confluence of time and energy and intention and destination and process and preparation, all that met in that one moment. And it impelled that one individual goose to separate himself because he was following his calling from within. And the conditions were right. It was an overcast day. It was cold. A tiny bit blustery, here and there, just, again, not really hard, but, the winds would pick up here and there. And so when all the conditions were right and the inner conditions were right, everything met, and that goose took off. And the geese, all the geese, when they fell into silence, when that goose separated himself and they all kind of fixed their attention on that one, they knew that the time had come to take off, to fly. They were getting their cues from the one goose. He got his cue from within. And the conditions, everything was right. And the moment called for flight, to fly. And there may come a time in your life when you may feel a calling from within, an impulse from within. But not impulsively do we follow it. It's with thought, it's with thoughtfulness and intention. And with a vision. And there may come a time when you feel and hear that calling from within to separate yourself. Whether it be separating yourself from it, from family, from friends, from a relationship perhaps, from a job, a career. Because something from within is calling with such force and with such resonance that you cannot ignore it. We cannot ignore it. We can't. And to ignore it, to ignore the calling of our inner daemon, our inner guiding spirit, or inner genius guiding spirit, or the Sura, guiding spirit from the Dagara tradition in Burkina Faso, West Africa, or from our spirit, whatever you want to call it, from our Imago, however you connect with it, by whatever terminology that you may use. When that calling comes from within with that resonance, we cannot ignore it. Or else if we do, because many of us do ignore, like I had for years and years, that daimon, D-A-I-M-O-N, that guiding spirit, that daimon becomes a demon, and it becomes our torment because we're not following the path that we're called to follow. Maybe because we're afraid of stepping out alone and separating ourselves, segregating ourselves from the crowd. And not that there's anything wrong with the crowd. Not at all. Not at all. But when we are called to our solitude and our silence, let us heed that call, because that may lead to our flight, to our taking off and flying. And I don't know about you, I'm here to fly and to teach others how to fly. And the way we do that now is we rise above our circumstances and conditions in life so that they are not the determining or defining factors that determine what reality is for us and that define us as being this or that. It's not the external conditions that define us. And yet, what they do is they reflect back to us according to what's happening in the inner world, in the internal, where it's silent, and where we have our solitude, our sanctuary of solitude, our Imago, in the dark where no one can see. So if you feel a calling, don't ignore it anymore, especially if the calling is to serve in some way. And it doesn't mean that you have to disrupt your life. It doesn't mean that you have to go off onto some long distance trip to a faraway land in order to, get clarity. I mean, if you're called to do that, fine. But that's not necessary. You can do it right in your own home. Some years ago, back in Boston, so 17, 18 years ago, I was doing some energy work, and I had a client. She was actually a therapist herself, and she had taken this long trip to somewhere like in Siberia to meet with a shaman. And because she just absolutely knew through her connection with this shaman, through her communications with this shaman, and whatever group he was involved in, I don't know. I don't remember that part so much, but there was some element of that involved. But it wasn't so much to join a group. That wasn't her intention. It was to go and meet with the shaman to get some idea, some clarity on what her mission, her life's purpose was. And I asked her some questions about that. And she told me, she said, Sareed, she said, what I realized was that I didn't have to go to Siberia. I could have just stayed in my apartment and just done the work. Because I would always talk about the work. Because I never had answers for anyone. People would ask, this and that. I said, I don't have an answer for you, but I have some questions, And I remember I had one client, she was a retired teacher. I mean, she got so frustrated with me. She goes, I'm looking for guidance, Sareed. I'm looking for guidance, and I'm asking you these questions, and you refuse to answer. I said, because I can't. No one can get in between us and Creator within, the Most High, the Most Within. No one can get between that unless we allow them to. No priest, no imam, no rabbi, no shaman, no whatever, according to whatever tradition, belief system. No. It's got to be us communing with our own deeper, profound, eternal self, capital S, self. Our spiritual self, our Imago, Creator within, the Christ, the anointed, that which is anointed of the consciousness of oneness, our Buddha within, the awakened one, the enlightened one within, our butterfly within. We ought never to allow anyone to get in between that, between us and us. Just like that goose that separated himself from the flock because he heard his calling from within. And he never looked to any of the other, he never looked backwards. He just took off. Never even checked with the other geese. He just stood there, and I remember the wind. I just remember that moment as I watched him. And he stood there, and I remember the cold wind was blowing in. And he stood there, and he just, for some moments alone, in his solitude, in his silence. And then he started running with his feet. First a quick waddle, and then an all-out sprint. And he spread his wings, and he started to ascend. You are called to fly. We are called to fly. Let us rise above our circumstances. Let us rise above the condition of conflict and contest and competition and duality and enmity. Let us rise above to higher frequency, unity, oneness. It is higher ground and deeper ground. It's all one. It's all one. We can choose the path of enmity if we wish. We can choose the path of duality if we wish. That's our choice. That's our right. We're free to do that. Creator's not offended. But man, if we could just imagine the possibilities and go into our silence and our solitude to heed that calling from within and to take flight, and whoever follows, follows, and whoever doesn't, doesn't. The idea of following anyway is ultimately is to help others to remember that their leadership, that their cues come from within also. So we're called to remember. That's what we're called to do, to remember that we are of the oneness, that we are one with Creator. One. We are the expressing of our Creator. That goose and all those geese, the expressing of the Creator, and the snow and the ice and the trees, whether full of leaves in summer or bare in winter, and the clouds and the north wind and the south wind and the east wind and the west winds. All things are the sum total of the expressing of Creator, and that's just on this earth domain. Imagine what all there is to see, to hear, to feel, to experience in far, far, far distant lands beyond Earth, to other planets, stars, and galaxies. That's what we're called to explore, because we're one with it all. So, beloved, I pray that this is a blessing for you as it was for me, and that you will take time, that we all take time in silence and in solitude to hear that calling from within. And here's one clue. What was your first aspiration in life when you were a child? The first thing you wanted to be? And whether it was a nurse or a fireman or a policeman or a priest or a doctor or a lawyer or president of the United States, it's all about serving others. In what ways are we called to serve? And in what ways can we serve? So I pray that this is a blessing for you, as it was for me, and that all things work together for your good. That all things work together for your good, for our good, always, always. So, and I pray that your vision becomes clear for you. So for the good and the blessing of all, thank you so much. Thank you and blessings to you and to all that pertains to you. And until the next time, stay blessed. Thank you.